Week 9, we are back doing it once again. Good old ranking show. Quarterbacks and tight ends. Group them together because, let's be real, people don't care about these as much, but they're very vital. So we still have to do them. Anyways, it is myself, Jim 105, with my co-host, Jeremy Schuler. How you doing today, Jeremy?
Yep, hanging in, hanging out, ready to talk about QBs and tight ends for Week 9. Surviving in some leagues, barely, staying afloat in others, and to the point of not even caring. But always setting the proper lineups, making sure we have guys who are going. But yeah, it's it's the fantasy triumph and tragedy that we experience every year.
Yeah, survive in advance is the best way I put it. It's like survive, we launch another week in advance. Hopefully you do there. There's a couple teams I'm like, they're not surviving, but the majority, that's what we're going for, right? So we're doing that. What we're doing today is we're mixing the ranking show up a little bit. We're doing our consensus ranking. So this is both Jeremy and my rankings combined. We're going to be talking about the tiers. There will be 6 players in each tier for each position. So we'll go 1 through 6, talk about a player there, go to the next tier. So we're going to start out with quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about our first 6 guys. So we have the first guy is Jalen Hurts at 1, going up against Jacksonville. Josh Allen at number 2 against Miami. Jane Daniels, quarterback 3 at the Giants. Lamar Jackson, quarterback 4. It might be surprising to have him there, but they're playing Denver. You can understand why. Joe Burrow, quarterback 5, going against Vegas. And Kirk Cousins cracks our top 6, going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense, which has been abysmal. Jeremy, who would you like to highlight in this tier 1 of quarterbacks?
I mean, it's no surprise that we have Jalen Hurts number 1, and he's playing Jacksonville after an absolute smash week last week. So I don't think we need to talk about him. I do want to talk about Lamar Jackson. 4 is a little bit low. Lamar Jackson's number 1 in our hearts. He's number 1 on the season, I think, still. Yep. And he's also number 1 in the MVP race. And he just got a brand new wide receiver in Deontay Johnson. Lamar Jackson, I think, is on route to another MVP season. He's going to crush. This is the best, at least the top 3, but probably the best team in the AFC right now. I know Kansas City has that vaunted defense, but Baltimore's doing everything they can to keep up, and Lamar looks amazing. He's going against Denver, so that's not an ideal matchup, but even against Cleveland last week, he was QB8 through almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, 46 yards on the ground. I expect at least a similar game. And if he gets in on the ground as well with those 2 touchdowns through the air, then, he's going to be right up there at the top. Also, he threw 5 touchdowns and 4 touchdowns in 2 other games this season. That's always in his range of outcomes.
Yeah, that's the thing with Lamar. This is about as low as we'll rank him. Like, I'm just going to be realistic. This is as low as he goes because of the matchup. We're dinging him slightly, but let's be real. Nobody's benching Lamar. If you have Lamar, you're playing him. He's too good. It would not shock me to see him go for 30 plus in this game. It's tied in his range of outcomes. It's just, it is what it is. Denver's defense is tough. The pass catchers are going to have a problem in this game. The rush defense, overall, this is one of the better up front defenses. The front 7, the back end's good. Denver's just a good overall team on defensively. So we have to knock him down a little bit. The implied point total is a little bit lower for Baltimore than normally is. So that's why he flies down slightly, but let's be real. We love Lamar. I think Cousins is very interesting in this range. They're going against the Cowboys defense. We talked about this earlier this week. Absolutely going to shred their defense. The under pressure, Cousins throwing 62%. Looks great. There's a reason why we have him there. It's a good matchup. We're firing him up. Let's go to our tier 2, which I think is pretty interesting. These are quarterbacks 7 through 12. Starting off this tier, we have Sam Darnold, quarterback 7, going up against the Indianapolis Colts defense. Quarterback 8, Bo Nix, going up against Baltimore. And you heard that right. And everyone might be scared about that, but we'll probably hit on that because we got a lot of hate on Reddit for our Bo Nix talk. Quarterback 9, Matthew Stafford, going against my depleted, just down bad Seattle Seahawks defense. Quarterback 10, Kyler Murray, going against Chicago Bears defense, another vaunted defense. Quarterback 11, Caleb Williams, going against the Arizona Cardinals defense. And quarterback 12, Jared Goff, going against the Green Bay Packers with no Jordan Love this week. So of these quarterbacks in this range, who would you like to highlight?
Jesse, you know me. I can't not talk about Sammy Boy Darnold. He is my QB6 this week. He's our QB7 in consensus. I'm dragging him up a little bit. Against Indianapolis, he's absolutely going to slaughter this defense, and this offense is going to be able to try and keep up with Joe Flacco at the helm now in Indy. So I like it for the fact that they're probably not going to run Aaron Jones 40 times in this one. Sam Darnold was my QB4. He was right up in this range for me last week. He had 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, and then the refs decided to get involved and threw a flag on every play for about 8 minutes of game time in the second quarter. Totally derailed that game. Sam Darnold, I think, has the opportunity here to throw for 3 touchdowns, which is what we need to get him up here. And then he can put up the yards against Indy. Like I said, I think Indy keeps up. And Sam Darnold now has Cam Robinson in the mix. They just signed a left tackle formerly of Jacksonville now to replace the injured Christian Darrisaw. It's wheels up for Darnold.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a big addition. I mean, he's nowhere near as good as Darrisaw because Darrisaw is one of the best tackles in the league, right? But as long as you have like a quality NFL starter at that position, and you're not getting a negative slot because that left tackle is very vital, particularly with the quarterback who's right-handed because that's your blind side. You're gonna get creamed. So, yeah, I like it. He should have a really, really good game. It's a juicy matchup, everything. So that one I'm more interested to see. But like we're right next to each other in rankings. Like I very much like him. I'm curious to see. The whole Bo Nix thing is really weird. Baltimore gives up over 300 yards passing a game. 311, 2 touchdowns. I get it. The rushing, like they do not give up a lot of rushing to quarterbacks. I think Bo Nix can still get there with rushing. So like I know it might seem really bold for us to have Bo Nix this high. We just love this matchup. Baltimore's defense is atrocious. Baltimore's offense scores at will. So I think this game is going to be a lot higher scoring than people are expecting because we saw last week with Bo Nix and them. They were good against Carolina. I think they can do enough to give you fantasy points. So yeah, that's why we're all aboard these guys.
Yep.
Let's get into our tier 3. And this is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Our quarterbacks 13 through 18. We're starting out Geno Smith going up against the Rams in a juicy matchup. Derek Carr, quarterback 14, going up against Carolina in the juicy matchup. We have Dak Prescott, quarterback 15, going up against the Falcons. Patrick Mahomes, he has the best possible matchup, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and he's quarterback 16 for us. That tells you where we're at with Mahomes and just fantasy in general. Quarterback 17, Baker Mayfield, going up against Mahomes and the Kansas City defense. And quarterback 18, Tua Tagovailoa, going up against the Buffalo Bills. Who's the guy you want to highlight here?
It's going to be ugly, but I'm going to talk about Dak Prescott. It hasn't looked great for him, but in 4 of his last 5 games, he's thrown multiple touchdown passes and he's eclipsed 300 yards in 2 of those games. So there's opportunity here when he's facing a defense that will struggle. That Atlanta defense is that defense that will struggle. I believe they played, was it Tampa last week? I just looked this up and then I didn't look it up. And we know what Baker does and can do. And that was kind of a close game. Atlanta is fine on the back end, but they're not great. They don't have a great pass rush, even though they brought Matt Judon to do just that. I think Dak is, as usual, going to be pressured a ton, but all they do is throw in Dallas 51, 27, 42, 33, and 38 pass attempts. He is on the Sam Howell plan from last year, just throwing it a ton. Dak, I think, gets there on volume, and I think he throws at least 2 touchdown passes in this one with the opportunity for upside for more.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's really treacherous with Dak right now just because the offense has been so bad. What they did last week is they showed off the garbage time ability, which is like really key for quarterbacks, whether they struggle throughout the game. You get behind. He actually showed that because he's like, hey, guess what? CeeDee Lamb, just going to feed you the ball. So if you keep doing that, Dak, like I like your opportunity. I am a little bit down. I just want to see it. And then like Baker on the flip side, that the matchup against Kansas City is really tough. They're a really good defense. Might possibly be the best defense in the NFL. On the flip side for Mahomes, the Buccaneers give the most fancy points to quarterbacks. So like this is us pushing up Mahomes from where we've been with him. So it's just like it's uncomfortable, but that's just, that's the life of Patrick Mahomes, week 9, 2024. So, it is what it is. Just it's shocking. That's where we are. Our tier 4, these are our quarterbacks 19 to 24. This is starting out with Malik Willis. We're expecting him to play. He gets the nod against the Detroit Lions defense. Quarterback 20, Trevor Lawrence, going up against the Eagles defense. Quarterback 21, Aaron Rodgers, going up against the Texans defense. Quarterback 22, Jameis Winston, in a not-so-great matchup against the Chargers. Quarterback 23, C.J. Stroud, going up in another bad matchup against the Jets defense. And quarterback 24, Justin Herbert, going up against the Browns defense, who is also a pretty respectable defense. As you can see in this tier, there are a lot of guys with bad matchups. Who in this range do you feel the most comfortable about playing?
Yeah, that question I'm super not prepared for because I was going to try and defend my Trevor Lawrence take, but I'm not most comfortable playing him. I'm probably most comfortable playing Jameis, even in a tough matchup, just because we know he's going to sling it all around the yard. But yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence. I'm higher than you by a lot this week. I have him QB 18,
Yeah,
and you have him as QB 25. I will say that Trevor Lawrence has not finished below QB 18 since week 3. So he's getting there on volume and multiple touchdowns. He's not really running the way that we've seen him run in years past, but he is throwing just about 2 touchdowns a game since week 3. So he's hovering right in that QB, that high end QB2 range most weeks.
Yeah.
And so what I like about Trevor, though, is the ability to get there against Philly, who is not really giving it up to quarterbacks. As far as fantasy points are concerned, they've tightened up the back end. Yeah. It seems like Cooper DeJean is coming on, which looks great for Philly. And we might be missing Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk out for the season. All of that said, I think Trevor Lawrence gets there this week. Specifically, I think Evan Engram has a good game. And I think they're going to be able to find some spots. Travis Etienne might be back for this game. And Trevor Lawrence has actually looked really good over the last couple of weeks compared to what he looked like at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So I think he's finally settling in here, and they're allowing him to throw the ball a little bit more. With the exception of one weird week in week 7, because they didn't have to against New England, he's chucking the ball about 35 times a game.
Yeah, it's been weird for that offense in general. I just don't know what Press Taylor's doing. I will say the last, to your point on the Eagles defense, ever since they got eviscerated by Baker Mayfield in week 4, they have been lights out. They're giving up 169 passing yards in those 3 games. Yeah. Obviously, it's a little bit skewed because it's Daniel Jones. It's freaking the ghost of Deshaun Watson. And then the game last week, which was the most surprising, was the Bengals offense and their inability to do anything without T. Higgins. That one was the more surprising, where I was like, all right, this Eagles defense, they're figuring out how to pressure more. They're covering better. So, I probably could move. I probably should move Trevor Lawrence up a little bit. I just don't like this matchup. So I kind of just left him in that ranking, and I was like, oh, it's not great. So, yeah, he's playable. I think you can stream him. It just seems pretty risky this week. If we get news, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. comes back, that would change my mind a lot. But we're going with the Parker Washington. We're going Evan Engram. It's just kind of not the best in the world. But Trevor Lawrence, he needs to get a better situation or something needs to work out for him, because hopefully they just fired Doug Peterson and moved on. We'll go from there.
Yeah, for real.
Our next tier, this is quarterback 25 through basically 30, I think. We have Drake May starting this tier out. I am significantly higher because I'm expecting him to play. Jeremy expects him to be out. If we find out news, and Brissett ends up playing, obviously I'm going to move Brissett down. But that is what it is. Playing against the Titans defense, which is, it's okay defense. Quarterback 26, Joe Flacco, going up against a Minnesota Vikings defense, which is not a fun matchup to go against. I am curious to see how Flacco does in this opportunity. I am not looking forward to this matchup for him. Quarterback 27, Daniel Jones, going up against the Washington Commanders defense, which has turned the corner the last few weeks, which is a lot more respectable than it was at the beginning of the year. Quarterback 28, Bryce Young, going up against the Saints defense that had a resurgence last week, but overall, that defense is pretty depleted. We just don't trust this offense. Quarterback 29, Gardner Minshew, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, which has been very successful and just one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And quarterback 30, Mason Rudolph, going up against it's a really bad game just in general. Going up against a Patriots defense, which has kind of been susceptible, but let's be real. It's Mason Rudolph. I don't think anyone's starting Mason Rudolph this week.
No, agree. Let's talk about Bryce Young against Denver in his first game back. He ended up as the QB 19, 24 of 37, 224 and 2. He threw 2 picks. That's the Bryce Young experience. Yep. We're going to have to deal with that. But I think Dave Canales and company are resigned to the fact that we need to roll here with Bryce Young and just let him do his thing. I don't think Andy Dalton should be coming back the remainder of the season. There's nothing left to play for. Why not figure it out with Bryce Young? But bad teams do bad, weird, strange things. So it's possible Andy Dalton comes back. But yeah, New Orleans has just been injured a lot on their back end. They're still fairly highly ranked because they were such a shutdown unit earlier in the season. They are finding their pass rush a little bit, but I just think Bryce Young is going to be able to do even a little bit more potentially than what he did against Denver last week. He was in Denver, and also now he's home against New Orleans. So that helps.
I think their numbers are a little bit skewed because they've had Spencer Rattler at quarterback the last couple of weeks, similar to Miami, right? The offense and everything comes down. The opposing teams don't have to do a lot to win these games. So I think their numbers are a little bit skewed, but I just don't trust the Carolina offense. It's just that's where it comes down to, right? It just sucks, but that's what it is. Where after you get past these guys, it's strictly just bench guys. We're not really gonna talk about that. If you're in the range of playing those quarterbacks, I wish you the best of luck because it's just not good.
play a position guy, right? We
Yes,
say this in
100%.
Superflex leagues.
Yes.
If you're considering Jacoby Brissett, don't. If Drake May doesn't play, instead just throw in your best position guy and pray.
Right. I think that's a much safer scenario. The floor and the ceiling are probably higher than that. Like, let's be real. Because if you're throwing out Brissett, it's like, ooh, it's just not fun. We're going to move on to tight ends. We're going to talk about all of the fun tight ends that we have ranking here. We're going to do the same thing with the tiers, 1 through 6, and move on from there. We're starting out tier 1. No surprise, Mr. Brock Bowers, the guy that is himself. He's our tight end 1 going against Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Yep.
The next guy, Travis Kelce, going up against the Buccaneers defense, which can be had. He is our quarterback, our tight end 2. Next guy, David Njoku. Jeremy's actually higher than David Njoku, which I need to fix that. I can't let the slander go. He's our tight end 3. Our next guy, Trey McBride, is our tight end 4. He's going up against the Bears defense. Our tight end 5 is Evan Engram going up against the Eagles defense. And our tight end 6, Kyle Pitts, cracking the top 6 against the Dallas Cowboys. Who's the guy you want to highlight here?
It's really difficult to feel comfortable about Evan Engram. The targets are there. He's had 10, 5, and 5 over his last 3 games since returning. And he does have a touchdown in that span as well. But this Eagles defense is really tough for him. I'm not, I guess, super high on him. 5 feels high for me. At the same time, I do not want to miss out on an Evan Engram game. I think that you have very few tight ends outside of the top 6 here, with the exception of maybe Cade Otton. And maybe, no, that's about it. With the exception of maybe Cade Otton, who can get into that high-end volume game where they're just being fed over and over again. So I think Evan Engram definitely presents that. And if Philly is able to shut down the rest of whatever the hell Jacksonville is rolling out at wide receiver this week, I think it's just going to be the Evan Engram show. That's why he's ranked so high.
Yeah, we've seen a few matchups they had. The Eagles just gave up 10 targets, 100-plus yards, basically to the Bengals last week.
Yep.
Because they had Mike Gesicki kind of doing some slot stuff, and it worked out really well for them. Evan Engram is that type of tight end where he could do that slot stuff. I think he was playing like real wide receiver last week when the injuries happened, so he's playing outside. We'll see. I think he's the one guy you could really trust in this matchup. They've also given up to the Buccaneers with Cade Otton. The Browns have had a couple of good matchups against them. Like, I think their ability to be had in this game, like, I think it's really wise. So that's what I think in there. It's just, yeah, it doesn't feel great going on with that whole situation in that game in there. Our tier 2 tight ends are tight ends 7 through 12. We're starting out with Cade Otton going up against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I probably need to bump him up higher because this is as juicy a matchup as you're going to get. But this one we're pretty different on. You have him at tight end 10. I have him at tight end 6. Overall, it comes down to 7. Jake Ferguson, the Cowboys tight end, going up against the Falcons defense. Our tight end 8, Sam Laporta, back in our lives, going up against the Green Bay Packers. Our tight end 10, Cole Kmet, going up against Indianapolis Colts defense. Our tight end 11, welcome back, TJ Hawkinson. We were expecting you to play, and we're liking what we're seeing from you. So, yeah, fire up TJ Hawkinson. And the last guy in our tier 2, Dalton Kincaid, our tight end 12, going up against the Miami Dolphins defense.
We need to talk about Sam Laporta again. I don't want to do it, but he's our tight end 9 by consensus. He's my tight end 14. Okay. Like I just can't do it with Sam Laporta. We talked about it earlier this week. The only 2 touchdowns he has are touchdowns that the running back has touched first. They're gimmicky plays for him. I don't know whether he's not creating the separation on his own, or Goff is just not looking for him because Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams are just so wide open all the time. Mm-hmm. They have the 1-2 punch in the running game. They don't need Laporta, and they're proving it week after week. Now, last week he went 6 for 6 with 48 and that touchdown from David Montgomery. But it was a blowout, right? They just had a ton of points on the board. That's not going to be the case every day. And then when you look at this matchup against the Green Bay Packers with Malik Willis at the helm, most likely it's going to be a slower pace of play. Detroit is not going to score nearly as many points. They're not going to need to. And I think this is a run first, run always kind of game script. So Laporta for me is down bad.
The reason why I'm higher is because there's no James Williams in this game. This is the second game that he's suspended. So what we saw last week kind of gave me like a boost in confidence to start him. And by the way, this Packers defense, like they've been had against tight ends, they're averaging giving up basically 6 receptions and 60 yards per game. Like it's not bad. And I think Laporta this week I will be higher on. I'm going to bump him down when James Williams comes back. Like I'm not going to just do that. But like I think he can give you like a pretty decent game. I would love to put him higher, but like the concerns are still there. Like he's just not earning targets. If he does stay in and block, or they don't play as much, it'll be interesting. But yeah, it's a kind of fun. Like that's the one we have the biggest split on, like by far of the group. And so it's gonna be interesting to see how it works out. The one guy I was like forcing myself was Dalton Kincaid. Like we're also very significantly different on those two. Like I don't want to play Kincaid, you more do. So it'll be interesting to see how these two tight ends go, and we'll see what from there. Our tight end tier 3, it starts to get a little bit treacherous here. We're starting out with Mr. Boom Bust himself, Taysom Hill, going up again in the vaunted, and by vaunted I mean the worst defense possible, Carolina Panthers defense. We have our tight end 14, Tucker Kraft, going up against the Detroit Lions, which could be a juicy matchup for him. We will see. Hunter Henry cracking our top 15, going up against the Tennessee Titans defense. Our tight end 16, Zach Ertz, going up against the Giants defense. Tight end 17, Mark Andrews, going up against the Broncos defense. And as you can tell, I'm significantly lower than Jeremy on this one. I do not like this matchup at all for Andrews. And our tight end 18, Dalton Schultz, just cracks the top 18. He's going up against the Jets defense. Who do you want to talk about this tier?
I would love to talk about Mark Andrews, but I'm going to leave that alone and talk about Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is Mr. Necessary. You never know when to play Taysom Hill, but you know when you should play Taysom Hill? When he plays the Carolina Panthers. Taysom Hill is going to go off in this game. Alvin Kamara is a little banged up with like broken everything all over the place. They would do well, and they certainly can rest some of their guys, let Taysom take the load and run a few plays, get out early, let him kind of run out the clock, because they certainly don't do a ton of that with Jamal Williams, certainly not a consistent basis. Kendre Miller, never healthy. So why not make this a Taysom Hill game where he gets in the end zone 2 times, they win by 3 scores easily, and Alvin Kamara and the rest of the guys don't do much, and they kind of rest up and gear up for the second half of the season.
Yeah, they have an implied point total of 25.5, which is absurd for the Saints right now. So, we're firing up every Saint, every which way. Like, it should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about why Olave is ranked so low in consensus, like tomorrow's episode. But, like, we love these guys this week. And, like, for me, I'll just take a quick one on Andrews. I'm very concerned to see how it goes with him. This is what we talked about on the show yesterday. I don't know how it's going to work out. I am worried that they haven't blocked more and he doesn't run all the routes. And if that's the case, less opportunities, like that's just what worries me. Like it's similar to Laporta. It's just Laporta has a guy missing, like he gets a guy added. So like that's where I'm at with the two. And also the Broncos have a really good defense, so that's also the concern of those two. So we'll see. Overall, like you can fire all these guys up. You just know there's kind of warts in this tier, guys. It starts to get real bad in our next tier, our 4th tier. This is tight ends 19 through 24. This starts with Noah Fant going up against a Rams defense, which can be had. So Noah Fant, I don't mind streaming him this week. Tight end 20, Jonnu Smith. Coming off of, he's been very boom bust this year, going up against Buffalo Bills defense. Tight end 21, Tyler Conklin going up against the Houston Texans defense, which that game more than likely is going to be pretty ugly. I will just say that for both sides of the ball. Tight end 22, Will Dissly has had back-to-back good games. He's going up against a Browns defense, which we will see if he could continue the hot streak. I don't know, but I'm curious to see it. Our tight end 23, Isaiah Likely going up against Denver Broncos defense. You can tell both of us are just kind of like, all right, we got to play him there. And the last guy in this tier, Jatavion Sanders going up against the Saints. He is our tight end 24. Who would you like to highlight in this tier?
It's a terrible matchup, but I don't care. I'm still firing up Tyler Conklin here. I think with Devontae Adams on the field and Garrett Wilson just doing what he does, Breece Hall kind of being that underneath check down who's going off in the passing game, Tyler Conklin can get loose and get his. We saw it happen last week, just 4 targets, 3 for 42 and a touchdown. Touchdowns in back-to-back weeks now for Tyler Conklin. You need a touchdown for him to pay off, but I think he's as good a bet as anyone in this range of guys to get there.
Yeah, the weird thing for their defense is the Texans have only given up 168 yards of tight ends this year. It's by far the lowest. What's happened is they've given about 3 touchdowns, so that's where the scoring has come against them because some of these other teams in this range just haven't given up scoring. So, like, my thought process is he can give you a touchdown, and I think that's what you're going to need from him. I just don't think the yards are going to be there. That's probably lower. But, yeah, like we're in this game, it's a lower projected total for both teams. I'm just not bullish on either offense in this game, unfortunately. It is what it is. We like both offenses going in the season. It hasn't worked out.
Just a point on Houston with the tight ends. I hear you, and I agree with you. They played Indy twice. They don't have a tight end. They played Minnesota. They don't have a tight end right now. And they played Jacksonville without Evan Engram. So lots of interesting matchups for them. I think it's a little skewed. That said, they have a really good linebacker core, and they got Petrie running all around at nickel, at safety. He's moving around. They have an awesome secondary. So, you need a score, and you're probably not going to get much else from Conklin.
Yeah, that was like they played the Bears before they were fully doing the Cole Kmet thing. So it was like a split experience. It's just, has not been good against them. It's just worked out for their favor. So we'll see. Like maybe he could do it this week. Our next tier, these will be our tight ends 25 through basically 30. And this is kind of be the last tier of guys you're possibly playing. We're starting out. Juwan Johnson. I know he's dealing with an injury, but if he does play in this game, I don't mind streaming him in this matchup against Carolina. Colby Parkinson, our tight end sitting is 26, going against the Seattle Seahawks defense, which has been very disappointing the last few weeks. Tight end 27, Grant Calcaterra, going up against Jacksonville Jaguars defense. I will say if we find out Dallas Goedert is playing, he's going to significantly skyrocket up rankings because Calcaterra did basically nothing last week. I don't even think he had a reception. Yeah. So this is why he's got it here. Tight end 28, the Gritty King, Mike Gesicki. I'm curious. This also depends on T. Higgins. If T. Higgins does play in this matchup, he's going to be down. If T. Higgins misses the matchup, I'm going to move Gesicki significantly up the rankings.
Yes.
But I'm under the assumption that T. Higgins plays, so that's why he kind of falls here. Tight end 29, Theo Johnson goes up against the Washington defense, which is, like we talked about, they're kind of coming on. And tight end 30, Chig Okonkwo, going up against the Patriots defense. And let's be real, in a game, I don't know how many guys you even want to play this week. It does not sound like a fun experience.
Yeah, I'm going to chase the points with Mike Gesicki, like you mentioned. If T's in, I will not. But if T is out, this defense sucks. Robert Spillane in the middle there is flying all around. Trevor Moehrig is flying all around, getting interceptions and fumble recoveries in the back end as a safety. But these guys aren't necessarily coverage guys. So what I think is most likely is if T is out, Mike Gesicki is going to retain his role. I don't think he's going to get 7 receptions again, but I do think he's got a good chance to find the end zone.
Right. We just saw Travis Kelce just have a monster game against him. Obviously, he's not Travis Kelce, but this Raiders defense can give up points to the tight end. They've given up a ton of receptions throughout the entire year. Basically 50 points a game, 50 yards a game to the tight end position. We'll see how it works out. Yeah, if that does work out that way, like I'm confidently firing up Gesicki. The next tier is kind of guys like I don't think anyone's gonna play, but they're ranked. It's the final tier. It's Eric All, it's Johnny Munt, it's Noah Gray, Foster Moreau, Bretton Stange, Dawson Knox. If you are starting these guys, best of luck. Like we say, maybe find another position to start, do something away from those guys. But yeah.
I will say Strange is interesting. He saw a few receptions last week and some extra looks once BTJ went down. BTJ unlikely to play. Kirk is out for the season, so maybe he gets a little more work. And Jesse, I know you are not confident. Neither am I. Confident is not the right word. But you don't like at all Parker Washington and some of these other guys. I hate Gabe Davis. So why not Bretton Strange when Evan Engram is double covered?
I need to move him up rankings. Like I was just thinking about that. He kind of got forgotten. Yeah, like Ingram's gonna be playing out wide, which means Strange is gonna be on the field. I think he's more of a floor play than anything else, but I think Strange is a better bet than like we talk about these guys in this range. Like who wants to freaking start Foster Moreau or Noah Gray or any one of these guys? I think if these guys are out, those wide receivers are out, Strange is probably gonna be right around the Conklin area for me. I'm just kind of waiting to hear like who goes out. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I think that's a very good point. Like that's the last guy in that range. You're like, you know what? Fire him up, see how it works out. If it doesn't, we'll do that. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for our fun week 9 discussion on quarterbacks and tight ends. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we'll be dropping our running backs, and the following day we'll be doing our wide receivers. So for Jeremy, for Jesse, for Aaron, SC, this is the week 9 ranking show. We look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow. So take care, folks.